Mogul was waiting on the nearby track, loaded with logs, wheat, corn, and cattle. One car stood empty. "You see that empty boxcar, Jimbo?" said Uncle Skeet. "I was thinking, a person could put a lot of building supplies in there, enough to, say, build a new school." Jim just stared at his uncle. That man had the craziest ideas. "Where would this person get the supplies?" Jim asked. "I'm heading out on my St. Louis run," said Uncle Skeet. "I pass through a lot of towns along the way, towns filled with nice folks who might be able to part with things they're not using, if someone like yourself were to ask them, that is." "Me?" said Jim, his eyes growing wide. "Do you really think anyone would give me supplies to build a new school?" "Never know unless you try," said Uncle Skeet. He threw his arm around Jim's shoulders. "Come with me, Jimbo. I've got the train if you've got the nerve." That very day, Jim and his uncle set out aboard the Mogul. Jim wasn't sure he could save Miss Riley's school, but he knew he had to try. The Mogul wove its way across the plains, stopping at each town along the route. While Skeet took care of train matters, Jim talked to folks about his school. He told them how it had been destroyed by the storm, and about the wonderful teacher who had lost her job. He spoke from the heart. The people listened and felt his sorrow, yet no one had anything to give. Then one day, in the tiny town of Cottonwood Falls, something surprising happened. An old farmer heard Jim talking and tapped him on the shoulder. "Son," said the farmer, "I never got the chance to go to school. I admire you for wanting to get an education. My wife and I have a big stack of wood left from when we took down our old barn. We'd be real proud if you use it to build your school." "Thank you, sir." Jim shook the farmer's hand. "You have no idea what this means to me." Another man stepped up. "I don't have much," he said, "but I've got a hammer and nails you're welcome to." A woman in the crowd offered Jim her calico curtains. The station master took down a map of Kansas and handed it to Jim. "You youngsters might want this in that new school of yours," he said with a smile. Word of what happened in Cottonwood Falls spread like seeds in the wind. Suddenly, everyone wanted to help the boy who cared enough to build a school. From Wichita to St. Louis, people lined up at train stations to contribute anything they could. In Emporia, a widow gave Jim a collection of her husband's treasured books. At Fort Spring, the soldiers gathered crates of red bricks. In Council Grove, a woman gave Jim a rug she had sewn by hand. Another family donated a pot-bellied stove, and children offered their own slates and chalk. By Saturday morning, the boxcar was full, bursting with enough supplies to build a fine new schoolhouse. Jim couldn't wait to show Miss Riley. He looked up at the sky. A storm was blowing in from the west. He knew that bad weather could make them late. "Let's get going," Jim said to Uncle Skeet. "We've got to catch Miss Riley." Rain poured down as the Mogul chugged along the tracks. Hours later, when the train reached the covered bridge near Jim's house, the river was rising fast. "I'm not sure if the bridge will hold," Skeet said, pulling to a stop. "Maybe we should wait here until the storm is over." "That could be hours," said Jim. "If we miss the stagecoach, I'll never see Miss Riley again. You have to try, Uncle Skeet. Just like you always say, you never know unless you try." Skeet scratched his chin and looked out at the rushing water. The bridge looked all right. "This engine and I have crossed many a bridge and many a storm," he said. "I don't suppose this one's any different. Hang on, Jimbo." Skeet eased open the throttle, and the mighty Mogul sailed safely across the covered bridge. When the Mogul arrived in town, Jim hurried to see the station master. "Miss Riley's stagecoach left 2 hours ago," he told Jim. "Oh, no," Jim groaned. "We'll never catch up." "Don't you worry, Jimbo," said Uncle Skeet. "This is the mighty Mogul you're riding in. She can outrun a team of horses any day." Jim jumped into the cab, and the engine took off. Before long, Jim could see the dust from the stagecoach in the distance, and in no time, they were side by side with the horses. Skeet clanged the Mogul's brass bell. "Miss Riley!" yelled Jim, waving at her from the engine window. We did it! We're going to build you the most beautiful schoolhouse in the whole country." He People from miles around volunteered to help, and before long, the new school was finished. They painted the outside red, built shelves for the books, laid down the rug, put in the stove, and hung the calico curtains. There was even enough wood left for a bell tower, although there was no money for a bell. It might not have been the most beautiful schoolhouse in the country, but to Miss Riley and her children, there was none better. On the first day of school, Charlie Lawson ran up to Miss Riley, holding out a book. "Now can you read us a story?" he asked. Miss Riley hugged him hard. "Yes, Charlie," she said. "Now I can read you lots and lots of stories." She took Jim's hand. We have Jim to thank for that. Surrounded by the children she loved, Miss Riley walked into her new school. One day, not long after that, Uncle Skeet came to the schoolyard carrying a big box. "Hello, Miss Riley," he said with a grin. "I've brought you a little something." Miss Riley opened the box. Inside was a shining brass bell. Carved on the front in bold letters were the words, "The Mogul." "I know you were needing a bell for the school, and it sure would mean a lot to me if you'd take the one from the Mogul," Skeet said. "I've been saving up for it for quite a spell." "It's beautiful," said Miss Riley. She looked into Skeet's eyes. They were smiling, just like hers. They hung the brass bell in the school's tower. It rang when Uncle Skeet and Miss Riley got married the next year. It rang when Jim graduated from school. And it rang when Charlie Lawson graduated too. It still rings to this day from its place in the tower, high above the little red schoolhouse that the mighty Mogul helped to build.
I can hear the rumble of boldest distant thunder as a hundred tons of steel roars down the track. Train comes round the horseshoe turn, headlights beam, then it storms into the station with a rush of steam. All aboard as we climb inside, and we know that we're in for an exciting ride. Like a real live version of a lion or train, it's the great railway adventures. There's not a thing to lose and the world to gain on the great railway adventures. Streaking through the darkness, whistling through the tunnel as we feel the mighty train wheels grab the rails. Signal switcher on the track changes course for this locomotive lightning that's a mega force. People wave as we zoom on by, and they stop to hear that powerful whistle cry. All right. All aboard as we climb inside, and we know that we're in for an exciting ride. Like the real live version of a lion train, it's the great railway adventures. There's not a thing to lose and the world to gain on the great railway adventures. Like a real live version of a lion train, it's the great railway adventures. There's not a thing to lose and the world to gain on the great railway adventures. On the great railway